Good afternoon, and welcome to Broken Record Chronicles. I'm your host, Rob Bell, and we talk about crime in America in nauseum as if it's a broken record. Some people have come to me of late and in some in substance basically have told me, hey, Rob, man, nobody cares about that stuff that you talk about. America is about making money. America is a capitalistic society, and all America is interested in is making money. There's groups of people in this country who are the haves and the have nots, the rich and the poor. And the rich continue to get rich and they could care less about what happens with the poor. And so when you talk about this issue of violence, it's basically the violence that's occurring in the Black community. And more often than not, those of us who live in a Black community live in poor Black urban areas. And as a result of the social ills that we have to navigate and survive through on a daily basis, it creates violence in our community. And of course, it has a socio-economic um, connotation to it because when people don't make money and people are prohibited to make money and people are less educated to put themselves in positions to make money, then they do what they have to do to make money. I always say the biggest employer in the Black community is pharmaceuticals, which leads to people selling drugs to make their money. And it's kind of a twofold thing because drug dealers can't make money if they don't have any customers. And usually the customers in our community are, of course, the people who live there. But there are also people who live outside of our community that frequent our community to buy the drugs. And so when you have a number of young people, young, especially African American males out there who, uh, by their own volition, poorly educated, don't want to go to school, listen to authority, refuse to work for $10 an hour, and want to live to the beat of their own drum, they choose to become their own entrepreneurs. And in that entrepreneurial spirit, they see drugs as a way of making money. So that's what they do. But with drugs comes guns, and with guns and drugs, there comes violence. And not just drugs and guns and violence, there are domestic issues, there are issues of misunderstanding, there are love trials, there's a plethora of things that occur in our communities that lead up to violence. And so, we are kind of in a quagmire and stuck and in a cesspool of violence in our community when we got people who are living on the next level in the lap of luxury and could care less about what happens to the people that are living down on the first floor. They're living in the high rise. They are living in the, uh, big bankers ballroom, the BBB, as I call it. And, why should they care about what happens to the people who are living in the basement? It's not their fault that people can't pull their bootstraps up and climb out of the doldrums of the ghetto, as they are terming it, and make money for themselves and live quote unquote happily ever after. But will they ever live happily ever after? Can you really live happily ever after making $10 an hour? Can you really live happily ever after making $15 an hour? Is that a family sustainable wage? Let's be honest about that. And it's not to say that people are not out there doing that. They do it every day. They get up out of their beds at 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning and they drag their asses to work. And they get out there and they work for that little bit of money and bring it home every 2 weeks or every week and somehow make it work. But I bet your ass they're not living in the lap of luxury. Most of those people don't own vehicles, they don't own property. They have to scrimp and scrape to feed their children. And the neighborhoods that they live in and schools that their children attend are not the best. And so when you pile a group of people together like that and combine it with the frustration that they have to see on a daily basis, not only in their traversing back and forth to work, but when they sit down and watch it on those big screen TVs that they bought, they start to feel a little disenchanted about their ability to be a part of the American pie. And so, those of us who have any moralistic value and sense about ourselves continue to trudge on. And it is our hope through our children that we teach them to not have to work and scrimp and scrape as hard as we do and put themselves in a position to uh, get to the next level when they become adults. Because, in the same vein that we have a generation that we've lost to all types of drugs, violence, domestic violence, and all of the other things that are occurring in our neighborhoods that is associated with violence. We've lost that generation. We have a generation out there that's also lost in terms of trying to achieve the American pie. Oh, the house with the white picket fence and the two-car garage and the Ozzie and Harriet and leave it the beaver kind of existence is not happening for a great number of people for a great number of reasons. And then you throw the pandemic in there and you throw violence in there and you force people to create a society that they have learned how to survive in. And not only learn how to survive in, but have accepted that lifestyle because even for them, there's no hope. So how can you teach your young people to have hope when you don't even have any hope? It's hard to teach somebody to achieve and have hope when you haven't achieved and you have no hope. So I say all that to say a lot of what we experience in our communities is not the responsibility of Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Danielle Outlaw or Mayor Kenny in the city of Philadelphia or the mayor in the city of Atlanta or the mayor in the city of Houston, Texas, or the mayor in Los Angeles, California, and Miami, Florida. The burden is not on them to ride in on their white horses to save us. The burden that we bear is on us. And I guess it's a sad commentary where we live in a generation or have a generation that is basically in the same boat as the generations who we deemed and declared lost because we're lost ourselves. You know, there's not a lot of us out there like that. There is a good handful or two handfuls of people of color living very well for themselves. And nobody ever wants to really talk about that. Nobody really ever wants to depict that in the images that we see on the nightly news. Very rarely do we see a goodwill story about a family in an African American community that's doing well. When we aired the Cosby Show, that was a singing song for us, and we told America that this is how some black people live: a doctor, a lawyer, the kids who have sense and live in brownstones in New York City and don't have to deal with the ghettoism, as I call it, and the violence and social nonsense that occurs in a lot of our communities. We have a sect in our group of people who do well, and we fed into that. We fed into it wholeheartedly. Even some white people fed into it wholeheartedly. But I got to tell you, those families and those people and our people are few and far between. And I say there's a conspiracy in America that anytime a successful black group of people or a successful black family gets depicted in the media as being up and coming, there's an underlying conspiracy to tear that family or that group down. You see what they did to Bill Cosby. And you can say, yeah, oh, he did that on his own. He messed with those women. He drugged them. He's a sex offender. He's vile. He did that. But the underlying character that was he was America's father. He was America's black father. And the media leaped all over that to tear down his image of being an upward mobile black man. Only to, in the end, after they cut his nuts off, let him go. And he's free today. Harvey Weinstein did all kinds of atrocity in Hollywood. And on the surface, yeah, they said they went after him, they did some things to him, but nothing compared to what they did to Brother Cosby. And what they did to Harvey Weinstein did not affect his community and the people and the circles he traveled in the same way that it did with some of our black icons in America. And so, we have to really look at those things and check ourselves in terms of the attitudes that we have to display and be able to put forward and change the way we think about how we matriculate through this survival bubble that we've created for ourselves and get back to living a life of morals, respect, and honor. And we have to pass that on to our children, because if we continue to move in the way that we have, we're going to be in the same position that we are 10 years from now, even 20 years from now. Hell, 400 years later, we're pretty much in the same position. Just a little bit of icing and frosting on the cake, just a little bit of lemonade on the side. But basically, we're in the same position. Malcolm and Martin died, and brothers from the Black Panthers died to try to get us to change our thought process and move a little different. And of course, they had some help by this so-called government of the United States, which wants to impose its will on everybody that doesn't fall in line to their whole democratic ideology of what America is supposed to be. They're right now associating themselves with a war over in the Ukraine because they want to vilify the Russians for shooting and killing babies and bombing shelters and bombing hospitals and killing people from the Ukraine. So people from the Ukraine are just fleeing from that state all over the place, mainly to Poland, some coming to the United States. And we give them $63.9 billion to come to this country because we feel sorry for them. We want to give them our democratic ideology and show the world that we are the gentler and kinder nation. And so we open our arms to folks who are suffering. We didn't open our arms to the folks in Haiti who were suffering, people of color. We didn't open our arms up to the Afghanistans when we went over there and tore up their country and bombed all of their oil wells and captured their leader and killed their people and basically did the same thing to those people that the Russians are doing to the Ukrainians. And the United States did it under the umbrella of they have weapons of mass destruction, which we later found out was a lie. But America seems to want to turn its back when they do those types of atrocity because they want to be looked at as the gentler and kinder nation. Racism has spilled over into America for the last 400 plus years. And there has been no effort on the part of America to try to make the playing field even, to give people opportunities and not create the have and the have-nots and the rich and the poor. America wants the rich to be rich and the poor to be poor because the rich can't be rich if there's no poor. There's nobody to step on if there's no poor. So America wants that. America wants violence in our communities because what it does is it creates an economic boost for the powers to be. It gives America an opportunity to build jails, which in turn gives the criminal justice system an opportunity to hire more judges and hire more police officers and develop more police departments and hire more correctional officers and put people in positions usually of non-color to be able to work and make family sustainable wages. Way more than $10, $15, $20 an hour. Puts those people in positions to be able to have money to live the quote unquote American dream. But America wants to sit back and be looked at as the great American whatever. So that's why I say, people, we have to make a move within our communities to eradicate this whole issue of violence and create and change our own attitudes and pass it on to the next generation so that when we're dead and gone, something has to give. I just gave Philadelphia a boatload of money to change and address the issue of violence and education and housing and all the social ills that we always talk about. But they always do that. They always give a bunch of money. They always say what they're going to do. And guess what? The homicide rate in that city is elapsing the number of homicides in terms of where it was this year or last year at this time. So you can't money your way out of this. You can't criminal justice your way out of this. You can't do anything in terms of trying to fix this. It's a mindset. And it's a mindset that has to come from within our communities because people who live outside of our communities And people who are not people of color could care less about what happens to us. Because, as ironic as it sounds, it becomes of economic value to the people who don't live in our community. This is Rob Bell. This is Broken Record Chronicles. I am not going to shut my mouth. And despite what I hear on a constant basis, Rob, you're wasting your time. Nobody cares. I don't even know why you're doing it. I don't care about that. I am going to continue to blow my trumpet, and I am going to continue to toot my horn and advocate for people in the Black community, because everybody in our community are not mentally insane, have mental health issues, are drug addicts and alcoholics. Not everybody in our community is like that. We have a large majority of people who are like-minded, as myself, and want to make change, but lack leadership and lack information, and maybe need somebody like me to hold their hand and inform them that, hey, you got it. You can get this done. I'm here to pat you on your back. I can walk you through it. Maybe they need a voice like mine. Whether they need it or not, they still gonna get it. Just like it's a broken record. If you like what I talk about, give me a thumbs up on my YouTube page. Subscribe to the video. Share it with your friends and family. If you don't share it with your friends and family, the information can't get out. You know, all these 30s and 40 views that I get, come on, we can do better than that. If I was a girl with big titties and a big ass and I was twerking all over the damn place, I'd go viral. By contrast, if I was a little kitty cat stuck in a tree and somebody came and rescued me, I'd go viral. But because I'm out in the neighborhood and I'm shooting 2-year-old girls, 2-year-old children, people getting caught in the crossfire, people can't shop on Peachtree or in Buckhead or on 52nd Street or on West Oak Lane in Philadelphia. Nobody cares. Somebody told me last week, the shit you talk about, dude, is on the news every day. So why should I look at and listen to what you got to say? I say to you, you ignorant. Because I'm trying to inform you further than a 3-minute sound bite about something that you see in the news. The news is sensationalizing the whole issue of violence because they want to sell newspapers. Don't you know that? I ain't trying to sell newspapers. I'm trying to educate your ass. That's what I'm trying to do. And all you got to do is listen. Malcolm tried to educate your ass. You didn't listen to him. Malcolm tried to educate you. Martin tried to educate you. Yeah, you listened to him. You listened to him just a little bit too much, and guess what happened? They killed him. Well, if they got to kill me, then bring it. But I'm not going to stop educating you because I'm going to do what I got to do. Subscribe to my video. Share it with your friends and family. Give me a thumbs up. And give me more than 30, 40 views on the video. Make me go viral. Show me something. Show me that you care. Take me viral. Take me with you. This is Rob Bell. This is the Broken Record Chronicles. And guess what? I'll be right back next Friday with a new edition.